Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Saturday, July 31st. It is the last Saturday in July. Tomorrow is August 1st, the beginning of a new month. And it is a beautiful, sunny, glorious, completely slurpy weather day where I am here in Alberta. So I'm going to try to hurry up and get this recorded and get it loading so I can go back out onto the balcony with my Slurpee. It's Slurpee season! And yes, it's a little bit interesting just how excited that makes me. But anyway, this is a channel about cross-stitching and the stitching that I've done over the past week and other stitching extravaganzas. So if you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I am going to say, because it is a lovely, sunny, glorious, fantastic Slurpee weather day where I am, this could be a little bit glowy. The room is quite warm. It's not evening yet when it cools down, and I don't have the fan going, which would help, you know, because then we've got background noises. So I do promise that this video is not going to be 2 hours long like last week's video was. I said last week it was going to be long. Oh yeah, I just realized I forgot to do something. But anyway, so for those of you who made it through the 2-hour movie length last week, thank you so much for coming by. I do apologize. It was not the best video for seeing the cutting. So the fact that all of the vertical stuff ended up getting cut off camera, got in there and went, oh, that's not good. Anyway, it made the video shorter because you didn't have to watch me cutting those ones. But I am 100% sure that there will be another opportunity where I will be doing some cutting on some threads at some point, not in the next year or so, but when that comes, I've made a note to self, have somebody come over and monitor the videoing so that we can actually get it on camera. Some of it got on camera, so I'm glad that some of you found that tutorial helpful. The thing that I was going to do is I was going to go onto the Victoria Sampler YouTube channel to see if they have videos about cutting. You know, again, White Christmas is a Victoria Sampler chart. They do a lot of that, you know, whether they call it hardang or modified hardang or whatever it is in a lot of their charts. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are videos on the Victoria Sampler YouTube channel that deal with cutting. I was going to look it up before I got on here. I have a note in my notes to say, look that up, but of course I didn't do it before I got on here. So I will do it while it's loading. So if there are, I will put a link to them in the notes section below if I find some good ones on cutting. But to those of you who said that they enjoyed the tutorial, thank you. Those are very kind words from you, because I looked at it and went, suboptimal. It's maybe a little bit better than nothing, but not much. Anyway, Stitching by the River left a really great comment on last week's video about she found herself holding her breath while I was doing the cutting. I thought that was hilarious. So just so you know, in my family, you're what's known as a sympathetic breather. That if you do the holding of the breath, it just helps out, and every little bit helps. Yeah, when cutting, check, 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 check before you cut. Anyway, a comment to those of you who have purchased the tray for your lamp stand. There was a comment on last week's video about how pleased they were with how stable it is. Yes, yes, it's a lovely tray. Lovely tray. I'm really glad I found it. I didn't find this on my own. I had someone who made a comment to me, he's like, you know, how do you find this stuff? And the answer is, I didn't find it. When I was making, made the reference to the stitching stands and floor frames or whatever that Facebook group is that I linked to a couple of weeks ago. Well, I was while I was finding the link to put in the notes section, I was like, I should maybe check in, because I don't check in regularly on Facebook. So I was like, maybe I should check in and see what's going on in the group. That's where I found the person who said they found this tray and blah, 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 and sent me off in the search of it and went, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. So I didn't find it. I found it in a Facebook group, bought it, love it, so glad that I have it. And to any of you who have bought it, who have commented to me that they've enjoyed it, you're welcome, because yeah, I love mine. Rachel Q, I laughed at your comment. She left a comment and said, yeah, the letter Q never gets much love, which is true. I will tell you, the letter J doesn't get a lot of love either regularly, but also thank you for the Canadian flag comment. Yes, I think it turned out great, all thanks to Jeanette Douglas, because quite frankly, I stole the maple leaf right out of the Canadian Patriotic Sampler. So thank you, Jeanette, for designing one that I could steal that would fit into my other project. And Anna left a comment that that you can get fabric swatch samples from, for example, from Zweigart. And the answer is yes, you can. And I have seen them. Both Traditional Stitches and the Stitching Corner have those in their shop to look through. But I will say the swatches are little. They're tiny little squares. And I want a bigger swatch. Like, I like a big swatch. So that's why I think, so for me, one, I don't necessarily want to spend those books. As far, I did check a number of years ago, and those books are pricey. And and they tend to have a lot of colors that I don't use. And yes, it'd be specific to Zweigart, so it wouldn't have any of the other ones. And so my answer is, I'm just going to build my own color swatches of colors that I use. Now, I've been stitching for a long time. Congratulations. This is, you'll see it in a bit. I'm working on my first swatch card, so that tells you how excited I get. Because I also do have the luxury with the fabric stash that I have that sometimes instead of hauling out the color swatch, I just haul out a piece of the fabric. But it would be nice to have the color swatches. Okay, so those are the comments from last week. As always, sorry, there were a number of comments of people who said they do want to hear the organ story. So I am going to tell the organ story in this one. It's going to be all the way at the very end after the topic and everything. So if you want to hear the organ story first, just scroll all the way to the end, catch the last few minutes. That's where it's going to be. If you want to wait in anticipation, it's going to be at the end after the topic. It's interesting how many of you either have organists in your family. You know, it's actually, yeah, I think thinking back to them, I was like, you all have, there's quite a few who have organists in your family. So that was interesting to find out. All right, so talking about the fabric swatches, I have not finished my first swatch card. I know that my goal was that I was going to show you my finished one, and the answer is because I've changed my mind about one thing. I had said last week that I was planning on stapling the swatch to the card, and I've changed my mind. I need to go to Michael's and get their acid-free double-sided tape that you can get for photographs and attach it with that. So I thought I had a roll in the house. It's not where I think it's going to be, so maybe I put it somewhere special. So before I actually go, I might actually just do a couple more checks. But that's my new plan, because I just decided fabric against fabric and staples, and so I've changed my mind about that. So I just need to go and make sure that I've got the double-sided acid-free tape that they use for photographs, to attach photographs for like things like scrapbooking and all that kind of stuff. So I just need to go get a roll of that and put it on my card. But I do have my recipe card written up. So here is my glorious recipe card. So I am using a big Sharpie here to put the name of the fabric. Here's the other weird thing. You're gonna laugh. When I finally get it, I'm gonna have to iron this. I know. Do I really need to iron it? The answer is no, but I'm really gonna iron it. I've debated whether or not I need to serge it, and I've decided the answer is no, that by putting the acid-free tape, it's not like this is going to get a lot of wear and tear. So once I get that, so I will still have to cut this down to size a little bit, because that's, like, cut the fringe off. But it's going to give me a really healthy sized chunk of fabric to see what this looks like. And after when I was talking about it, where I said I don't know if it's still available, I did do a bunch of checking and I can't seem to find it anywhere. So I do think that this is a discontinued color. This is certainly the only piece of this that I have in my stash. But yeah, so once I get my double-sided tape, I will put it on there. And on the back, I've written the project that I've used it on. So I am planning on putting a start and an end date. I need to go back into my Stitch app and find what day I actually started this. I think it was July 1st, but maybe not. I need to go back and check that. So my goal is to put start and end date on this. I do have, like I say, that one piece of one chunk of this left over. It's a 13 by 13 piece, so it's a good project sized piece. And so hopefully at some point I will find another project to put on this. And then I think at that point, my card will be complete. I would still keep it, even though it's been discontinued and 27 other things, I would still keep this card in my fabric swatch collection, because you just never know when you're going to stumble across a weird piece in somebody's unloading, eBay stash unload groups, etc., etc. If somebody comes up with it, I would know what it was. So not complete, not this aspect of my project is not yet complete, but hopefully this week it's going to get complete. But that's the beginning of my fabric swatch collection. One. Woohoo! All right, stitching this week has not been huge. Limited stitching this week. I got specifically towards the tail end of the week, which is when I tend to get quite a bit of stitching done. I got distracted by a number of things, including the topic for this week, which we'll get to when we get to the topic. So I didn't necessarily get all of the things accomplished that I was hoping to get accomplished. But that happens. This is stitching. This is not life-saving procedures, so the fact that I didn't get everything accomplished is fine. So let's start off with sampler stitches. The series of 9 charts by the Drawn Thread that I am doing as a stitch along with Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy, also on Flosstube. That's what it looks like all together. So I'm happy with my progress on this week. So where is my board? There we go. So I finished off the letter P. So last week, remember I was commenting that the instructions for this were confusing. So the answer to that is when you're working on it late at night and reading the instructions. So upside is, clearly I was looking at that part late in the evening when I was getting tired and it didn't make any sense to me. And at that point, the best answer is to stop. Don't try to figure it out and stitch it while you're tired. When I read it this time, when it was clearly earlier in the evening and I wasn't so tired, I looked at that and went, man, what was the problem? Anyway, there's no problem. The instructions are totally fine if you read them like a sane person. Anyway, so I finished all of P. I did use the Soie 103 for this pulled work down here. I will say this stitch, I'm going to show this up close. This one right here, like, so even here on the front cover, these loops are mussy. So I didn't feel so bad when my first one was fine. So there's 4 of them here. I'm just trying to figure out what's the name of this stitch. Plush stitch. My first one was fine. My second one was, you know, curling up on itself and twisting up on itself, just like it looks like here. And I didn't like that. So for all of you, when you get to this one, my second one still needed a little bit of help, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the third and the fourth one, my trick is when you're doing the stitch, before you do steps 5 and 6 in the stitch diagram, twist. So twist your thread. So for me, it was counterclockwise a couple of times before you do step 5 and 6, and that helped my. I'm gonna see if I can't hold it up close. My step 5 and 6. So my third and fourth stitches are better then 1 is good, 3 and 4 are pretty good, 2 is not so good. And it really was sort of twisting up on itself. But because 3 and 4 were fine, you know, and I'd managed to get it to lay down flat while I was stitching 3 and 4 and had ended my thread, when it started to twist up on itself when I was working on this one, I was like, I am not going back and restitching that, just so we're clear. So my answer to that was, I put my needle minder, so I straightened it out, slid my needle minder down on top of it overnight. And now it's laying better. So it'll be interesting to see as I continue to work on these next 2 letters, whether or not it starts to twist up again. But so far, you know, this is almost a week later, and it's still doing okay. So if you get one that sort of after the fact starts to twist up on itself, my answer is put a needle minder on it overnight. Straighten it, put a needle minder on it overnight, and see if that helps it fix itself. That's what I did. So I finished all of P and got the letter Q stitched. So I thought that was great. In terms of the schedule for this, I did remember to look before I got on here. So this is the week that I should be halfway through the letter P. So my goal is to get the letter Q completed this week because there's not a ton in there. So again, I will take my designated evening's worth of stitching. It's probably not going to be tonight. My designated 1 evening of stitching, get this done, and which means I expect that I will start on the letter R this week as well. Depends on how well I do with these queen stitches. So I don't love the queen stitch. It's okay, I can do it. And they look fine at the end. I don't love doing them, but there's a lot of half verticals and half horizontals and all that kind of stuff. So there's actually 3 different colors of queen stitches in the center of that block. So that may slow me down, but my goal this week is to get Q complete, which means I'm still on track for being a full 2 weeks ahead of where my schedule says I should be, which means I'm on track because there's always going to be the possibility I'm going to fall behind at some point. So I'm pleased with my progress on this. Yeah. So yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. 2 more letters, and then I get to do my final rolling down to the bottom row. That's when it's really going to hit me that we are coming up to the end of the year. Anyway, so that is my sampler of stitches, which brings me to White Christmas by the Victoria Sampler. Oh yeah. A sampler of stitches is being stitched on a 32 count Silvery Moon Lugana with my own version of the colors using Soie d'Alger, which is noted in the note section below. Okay, sampler, or the White Christmas, I was hoping that this was going to be finished. But like I said, I got distracted, and I will say the hardanger always takes me a little bit longer than I'm expecting. So this week, so I took it off the Q snaps. I also put a piece of red colored paper behind it so you can actually see the pulled work. All of my boards tend to be white, so when it's white on white, it makes it harder to see what's going on. So I picked red because it's sort of Christmassy-esque. Now, I wouldn't, while it does highlight where the pulled work and the cut work is, my goal for this is to frame it at some point. Don't get your hopes up. You know I'm not good about getting things framed on a timely basis. But I would frame this, so I probably will put a colored mat behind it to highlight the pulled work. I probably wouldn't choose red, but I don't know what I would choose. So not white, color of some kind. I just don't know what it's going to be. So stay tuned for some year when that occurs. So I got this remaining band of pulled work done. got it centered. When I ended up doing all, so yes, cut the centers and then started, you know, counting up to 6s, because I'd also made the decision that when I did these, pulled these threads together, I wanted them in batches of 6, like the instructions say, not like the written instructions say to do it, pull 6 together. The diagram, the stitch diagram in the chart only shows pulling 4 together. So I commented on that last week that I was planning on doing 6. 6 is what I did there. So happy with how it worked out. I think my centering looks fantastic. I was very happy with how well it centered. I felt it's very even. So I was happy about that. I finished this band here and did get my pearl beads attached in there for my holly leaf. And then of course finished off this modified hardanger band by doing the wrapped bars. I'm saying wrapped, I think they're actually woven. So just so you know, there is a difference between wrapped bars and woven bars. It says that these are just wrapped bars, but I think they're actually woven. But don't quote me, because we all know I'm not good about my names for things. I usually just follow the diagrams. But the interesting thing is, so again, this is an early chart from the Victoria Sampler. I truly believe that this is like the 3rd chart they ever published. And when I was following the diagram for the dove's eye in the stitch diagram in this chart, so I've done this before. I've done hardanger before on a variety of pieces, you know, so I've done these before. And I was following the stitch diagram and I was like, it feels weird. It feels weird. Nothing more than that. It feels weird. So what do you do when things are feeling weird? You go to YouTube. So I went onto the Victoria Sampler and she's got a video. Like the video is entirely like maybe a minute and a half, 90 seconds of a close-up of her doing a dove's eye. So I will link that video down below if you want to see what she's doing. And I watched that and I went, oh yeah, that feels better. And it's not the same as what the stitch diagram here is. So again, so I have the benefit because I had taken a class on hardanger and I've done this before. When I was following the stitch diagram, I had the sense to go like, this feels a little bit weird. So if you've got this chart in your stash and you're contemplating doing it, I would say follow the way she does the dove's eye on her video on her Flosstube channel, not the way that it shows up in the stitch diagram with this particular chart. So as soon as I saw the video, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's better. So my dove's eyes are not perfect. They're not bad. Like I say, I've got a friend who does a lot of, actually I'll do it a little bit closer. I've got a friend who does a lot of hardanger, and if she were to do this, all of her dove's eyes would be exactly the same. If you look at those, you'll see they are not exactly the same. Look at that small little puny one over here, but anyway, they're not bad, and for me, they're fine. I was totally fine with them. I know that they're not entirely even and exactly identical, which is what my friends would be, but I'm okay with that. So again, it's my piece. I get to decide. I'm happy with my dove's eyes. They're fine for my purposes. And the number of people who in my world who know enough to come up and go like, they're not even, is very limited. And even my friend who does all the hardangers, she would look at this and she wouldn't say anything. If she were, the entire time I was stitching these wrapped bars and doing the dove's eyes, I was like going, man, if she were over here, she would be chuckling to herself in the corner. I'm really slow, really slow, because I don't do it a lot. Now, not surprisingly, the further across the band that I got, the faster I got, because it was, you know, coming back to me. I haven't done hardanger of any kind in years. So, you know, when I first started off, I was like, oh yeah, wait, hang on. So it's better as you go across, because I finally remembered how things were going. But, you know, the band is done. this band is done, this band is done, this band is done. The only thing left to do, of course, is this really painful band here. So a lot of beads need to go in here, and I need to do a bunch of knots using the Medici wool, which those are just going to be painful to do. So we'll see how many of them. Again, they're sporadic around the wreath. So, you know, can I skip some? Sure. So I just need to fill up the wreath with a combination of French knots, colonial knots. Someone asked me, he's like, are you doing a French knots or are you doing colonial knots? And the answer is, I know how to do one kind of knot, and anytime they ask for a French knot or a knot of some kind, that's the thing that I do. I don't know which one it is. I don't care. It's the one I know how to do. That's the one I'm going to do. So I need to fill this up, and then I need to do all of the beads that go on the outer part of this, because the stitching with white is just not going to work given the fabric choice that I have made. So one of the things that I did this week is I did go, sorry, they're on the tray to the light. I did go onto the Mill Hill site. Specifically, I was looking for all of their petite beads because I want to make them petite. Because I just want them to be little bits. And so I looked on, so I went to the Witchelt site, clicked on the beads. You can pick a specific size. So I picked all the petite, so I picked petite, and then I just scrolled all the way through everything they had because I was looking for anything that was like white, iridescent, you know, something in that family, white, silver, iridescent, whatever. And so there were three colors, all of which I've got in stash. So I will give you the numbers. So they are 40479, 40161, and 42010. So these are the three colors. Sorry, there's glare on there, right? So I'm calling this white, more of an iridescent. I don't know what the name of it is, and here's my silver. So I'm planning on just sort of spread. It's me, so it's probably going to be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Check back next week and see how I do. So I am planning on doing some. I'm doing the French knots first. I need to get the French knots done because if it just comes down to beading, I'm easier with beading, so I need to do the French knots first. I think that's why I got distracted by other things, because it was a way to not do the French knots. But I do want to get it finished. We're so close to having that piece finished. But those are the beads that I'm planning on using to put around the wreath. Whoops. To replace all of these random white stitches here. So I think it'll look okay. It'll end up being way more beady than, you know, the original one would have been, but that's my only solution that I've got at this point. And that's all the stitching I did this week. All right, let's get into Stashquisitions. Because I said there was going to be some, and there is. Where's my other board? There we go. Okay, so I bought these charts off of Etsy. This is actually a couple weeks ago. First week I forgot to print them out. Second week I had them printed out, but I forgot to bring them over. So here we go. This is from an Etsy seller called STG Stitch UK. They have two different sites on Etsy. One is where you can get PDF only. The other one is where you can get physical charts. They are located in the UK. So I, of course, was aiming for PDF charts. Now, this is a number of weeks ago I said, like, I'd seen some stuff and I reached out to them and they came back and said they could do it as PDFs. Well, when I went back into Etsy, I was having trouble getting back to where I was. So I had to search for them again, and the PDF store popped right up. So it was like, I don't know what my problem was. But anyway, so this is Art Deco Lady number 197. So they have a lot of these ladies doing in various different things. I chose this one specifically because it's got sort of like this background scene. I call her, in my head, I'm calling her the Derby Lady. There are two versions of this chart. You can get it with, so I call it the Derby because she's at the railing and the stand and people, I'm calling it the Derby Lady. You can get her where it's just the lady. You don't have this stuff. She comes in multiple colors. She comes in blue, she comes in green, she comes in purple, she might come in one other color. So she does come in multiple colors. I chose this one because I like this sort of background scene in the railing. Note to all of you, technically, this is a full coverage piece. All of this background is stitched. So just so we're clear, I have no intentions of stitching all of this background color. I'm going to pick some fabric color when I come to stitch her. So you can get one where it's just the lady, so you don't have to take the background out by yourself. But I'm going to not stitch any of this background. This is going to turn into fabric. I'm going to stitch the lady, the railing, and this background scene. But there is no way I'm stitching all of that background. And just so you know, I'm pretty sure it's like more than one color. So that's not happening. Anyway, so that's lady number one. This one, I've managed to cut off the title. I will put a link to the shops down below so you can just search. Clearly, I call this one the Christmas Lady. It's usually like, you know, Art Deco Lady, fill in a number. I call this one, so that's the Derby Lady. This is the Christmas Lady. Again, full coverage. This background here is full coverage. Again, do I necessarily think that I need to stitch this? I'll need to stitch the stars, but putting this just on quite frankly, a navy background and not stitching these multiple shades, I think would look just as well. Not sure when this is coming up in the lifetime stitching plan. Forget 5 years in the lifetime stitching plan, but that's not the point. And then I got this, does this one? Pink Lilies number 520. I have a thing about lily charts. It's hard to find a chart with just lilies on it. Anyway, again, so full coverage. There's no way I'm stitching the background on this either. I got it for the lilies, and I'm fairly confident that I have the ability on a full coverage chart to figure out what the background is and not stitch it. So those are from STG Stitch UK. I think I love the pictures. You know, full coverage. So just in case you're looking at them, the majority of them are full coverage. So don't be afraid to take the background out. Getting roasty toasty in here. Whew. Whew. I need to hurry up and go faster so I can get out onto the balcony with my Slurpee. All right. So I placed an order with dyeing for cross stitch. I'd been looking at some very specific fabric even before I went to StitchCon. So I didn't place the order because I was like, I'm going to StitchCon. They're going to have a number of vendors. Let's see what they've got. Don't commit yourself to these fabric purchases until you've gone to StitchCon and you see what you come home with. So I went to StitchCon. I didn't come home with a lot of fabric. So when I came home, I was like, okay, time to place your order with dyeing for cross stitch because I want the fabric. And then you add to cart, you look at things, you see what's on sale. You add to cart. So it turned into a bigger order than originally planned, but I'm happy with everything that I got. So this, still going to use the board. So this is their April cotton floss of the month set. So they usually have a monthly set, which has a variegated, I will take it out for you. Where's my other board? This is better. gonna have to, just, you know, it's gonna have to go back into that same board. So every Floss of the Month set has a variegated. Clearly here's the variegated, and the 3 colors that coordinate with that variegated. So when this originally came out, you know, it was okay, but it wasn't something where I was like, ooh, I can totally see that colorway, I must have it, which I've done that on some of them. This was on sale. This was on super sale. This was on sale more than their regular monthly sale price. When it's the current month, the sale price is. And with my stitching plan, I now have a plan for this. So it got added to the cart pretty fast, because I know how I'm planning. I have a plan for this. Now, if I were smart, I would have remembered to look and see how big the skeins are, but the skeins are big. Like, this is not your standard 5-yard. I want to say it's a 10-yard skein, is what comes in each of these colors. So it's a very healthy skein. So shedding hair like nobody's business. This is the September Silk Floss. Now, I did take these when we had the stitching get-together at the library, and one of the ladies asked me, she's like, so how do you decide? And for me, the interesting thing is, so normally what happens is I open 2 tabs on the computer, and I open the colorway in the cotton, and I open the colorway in the silk, because the silk and the cotton take the colors differently, and I compare the 2 pictures and I decide which of the colorways showing up on my screen is the way that looks better for me. It is more appealing to me. So again, quite brown and orange for me. So this is, again, so when September came, this would have come out in September of last year. When this would have come out, I would have looked at it and went, you know, it's a nice set. It's very brown, and I wouldn't have picked it up. But I have a plan for this now. So I picked this up because I've got a plan for it. And again, it was on sale. It was a great price for silk. And I now have, you know, this time I looked at it and I went, oh, I know exactly what I would use this combination. Not just one of them, but this combination, I know what I would use that for. So it came home. These other ones are, because I looked at, actually let's get this one. Okay, so this was, yes, I should do this so you can see the names. So you could also purchase this as a set, which I didn't do. The 4th color that goes with this is a very pale yellow. It's hard to see on camera, but in this variegated one, there is a pale yellow. Pale yellow is not me. So for this, so I didn't buy the set. So I got the variegated, I got the dark blue, and I got the light blue. Frank, I can't read them backwards. Frank, Lakeside, and Lobella are those 3 colors. These are all cottons. So then I got other random things for no particular reason, other than I was placing an order and I decided if I'm going to place an order, I might as well make it a good one. So this is Marianna in cotton. This is Hysteria in silk. African Violets in cotton. Stewart in cotton. lovely jewel tones. Yeah, if she did a colorway with Stewart, yeah, that's a set that I'd buy. Peacock Party in Cotton. So Long Shadow in Cotton. And Desert Night in Cotton. Clearly I untwisted this one. So yes, just a tiny little bit of brown in this one. More blue, gray, little bit of mauve. Desert Night. Okay, so fabrics, because I don't have enough in my stash, but I'm going to start with the fabrics that started it all, which is why I was like, going, you're going to place an order with Dying for Cross Stitch. Green fabric, green overdyed fabric in a Lugana. Again, one of the things that I love about Dying for Cross Stitch's site is that so a lot of the sites, like I was on Color and Cotton this week and I was looking at a couple of things, but of course you can order Lugana from Color and Cotton, but every picture that they have, the colorway is shown on a linen. And they don't specify whether it's a 28 or 32 or 36 count linen. So, and we all know Lugana takes the dye very, very differently. So I get very nervous and quite frankly, usually unwilling to place an order if I'm not really sure how it's going to come out. So the thing that I love about Dying for Cross Stitch is when you go into the even weave section, because I prefer even weaves, she actually has a picture of the dye on even weave with a bobbin of DMC on top of it, which gives you a very good sense of what the color is really going to look like. And so the thing that got me, which started the order, is green fabric. So I say all but one of the things that I ordered are 32 count Lugana. So this is Andy's Light. So 32 count Lugana. I'm going to hold them up because, you know, fat quarter. It's looking a little washed out there. It's more green than this. So it's about DMC 504. This is what started it. This is the one where it's like, I want a piece of that. And again, I love the fact that ordering it, I had the confidence to sort of say, you know, every piece is going to be different, but at least I have a very good sense of what the sort of inherently underneath the base color of this piece of fabric is going to be. And everything has to go back in the bag. So that is Andy's Light, 32 count Lugana. Now, she's doing a lot these days where she's doing, in her colorways, she's doing a light, a medium, and a dark. So, you know, because she's doing it, I also got Andy's Medium. And I want to say that the DMC bobbin is about, I want to say it's DMC 563, but don't quote me on that. When you go onto the site, you'll see what it is. So that's Andy's Medium. There is an Andy's Dark. but that's not the dark green that I ended up going with. So I got, this is Medieval Forest Dark. Again, which is probably very similar, right? So a little bit lighter than my Teal Quaker Cloth, but it's a very nice dark green. And again, I compared the pictures for Medieval, I have to look down because I don't remember the names, Medieval Forest Dark versus Andes Dark, and I decided I liked Medieval Forest better. So that's the dark green that I got. And again, so this is what really kicked off the order, is because I decided I wanted a light, medium, and a dark green. But then, you know, she had stuff on sale, and it's me, so you can never have too much blue. So this was her June fabric of the month. So I placed this order, I don't know if it was in June. Anyway, this was on sale. This is the June fabric of the month. So it doesn't have a color name. 32 count Lugana. It's a lovely medium blue. Ugh. Oh, isn't that lovely? Lovely, 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 lovely. I was gonna say, if I were smart, I would have gone into my Picture This Plus and went, I'm feeling like this is just a shade more darker than like PTP Dwarf. Okay, this next piece is the only piece that is not a 32 count Lugana. So I got a piece of 28 count Monaco because the Monaco has more cotton than Lugana. I don't know if it's 100% cotton, but it certainly has way more cotton, which again means it's going to take the dye much, much more intense. And so I got a piece of dark blue. It's a little splotchy, so I probably tend to use it, cut it in the middle, see what I can fit on there. Again, I got it just because it's hard to get a dark blue. I was gonna say that actually. I was gonna say it looks a little. It's a little more intense in real life. Certainly, like in this part up here, it's darker in real life than what's showing up on what I can see in the camera. So yes, this gets added to my dark blue fabrics. So that is 28 count Monaco in Wizard. This is Winter Wonderland. This is an opalescent 32 count Lugana. Now, I'm going to have to check this, but my plan for this is I think that I'm going to try to aim to put Country Cottage Needleworks, Little House Needleworks, I get them mixed up, Glitter Village on this. That's what I got this for. Now, whether or not it's dark enough for the white to show up, we'll see. It's a really lovely, you know, gray shade. Not too intense. So that is Winter Wonderland. And the last piece is a dark gray. This is, you'll be interested. This is Up in Smoke Medium. So there is a darker version of this. I want to say that the DMC bobbin has it at about 417. Don't quote me. But it is a dark gray. Now, not too dark. Like I say, there is one that is darker than this. Again, because she's tending to dye her colors in light, medium, and dark. This is the medium. This is the medium. So I will put a link to Dyeing for Cross Stitch below. again, the thing that I love is that for her fabrics, she shows you, so depending on what you're getting, she does show you on that fabric. She has a whole category of stuff that is ready to ship. Of most of this, I think, was ready to ship, but there were a couple of colors in there that needed to be dyed to order, but it didn't take very long. It came very, very quickly. It arrived, I think it actually arrived just before the Stony Creek one, but I chose to show Stony Creek last week. Anyway, that is my Dying for Cross Stitch. Yay! It was lovely, lovely, lovely. Those are my Stashquisitions for this week. So, I was gonna say, I'm hoping maybe I don't have Stashquisitions for next week, and as soon as I say that, it's like, no. I know that there's something I'm gonna want to get. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a little trip one place to get one thing, and then I'll be fine. Okay, so we are now at the topic, which is called, let's talk August heat. So first of all, I think it's hilarious. It's July 31st. It's lovely, glorious, sunny. The temperatures here are, I think the temperature today is about 30 degrees Celsius, which is in the low 90s. Too hot for many where I live, because this is you know, warmer than our average temperature, but love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. It means I can go out and spend a ridiculous amount of time out on the balcony. Love it with a Slurpee. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, sorry, did I say that I love warm weather? Anyway, there is a temperature where it gets too hot even for me, but I like warm weather. So my plan, so we are more than halfway through 2022, believe it or not. More than halfway through. We are coming up rapidly on like Christmas season. So my plan for August is, so I'm calling it August heat because it's like, let's just get some stuff done. So number one, not surprisingly, I've got to do my August cottage of the month so that I can stay on top of that. I will be working on my sampler of stitches. Originally, this is why I laugh about the plans. It's great to have a plan, but your plan always needs to have the complete and utter flexibility to change. So I had a plan and I was doing some stuff. I laugh. So I'm stealing Traveling Stocking Stitchers line about kitted but not committed. So I have a whole bunch of projects that are kitted that are not in the 5-year plan. So clearly kitted but not committed. Love the line. Thank you, Traveling Stocking Stitcher. I'm totally stealing that from her. But I was doing something in the drawers where the kitted but not committed bags are. And I stumbled across something and I went, so I'm adding it to the plan. I'm not going to show you yet. Stay tuned in August. It's going to come out then. But again, it got distracting. So I had to pull that out. So I'm adding something into the plan for August. This plan is to do rewards for when I get my goals accomplished. So my goals are to work through things to get them finished. To either get them, not all of them, to either get them finished or to bring out projects that I had started previously which have not yet been worked on in the current year and make progress on them. So if you were paying attention last year, you know that there are a number of starts that I did last year that I did not finish that are carried over to this year, which are not yet, have not been touched. Not a single stitch has gone into them at all, which is not good. You know, so I think about Stitchin' Mommy where she's like going, oh, I need to like, I have all these projects and I'm not touching all of them. And I have way less projects than her. And it's true. I've got stuff where I have not touched them at all since they were worked on last year. And the interesting thing about last year's plan is that the new starts last year were only worked on in that month. So some of these I have not worked on for more than a year. And if I don't work on them for more than a year, they usually end up into the, you know, UFO. I don't want to call them UFOs because I have every intention of finishing those ones which I have not worked on in years. But they don't tend to come up, right? Because you get excited by new starts and other things and whatever. So my plan for August is the August cottage is going to be a new start. The thing that I stumbled across in the kitted but not committed, which is now turned into a almost kitted and committed plan to be part of August, and I'm going to use that as rewards as I get things accomplished. So I've got some very specific goals, which are always subject to change. Very specific goals. So in my head, I've kind of mapped out the order in which I want to stitch on things. But the reason why this took some of I got distracted this week and didn't stitch because I was getting ready for August. So these include things like a lot of the projects from last year didn't make it into Markup RXP. So I've now brought a lot of them. I think most of them are now in Markup RXP. You know, so I spent some time actually getting them all set up, made sure that the grids are in there and right and lined up and all that good stuff. You know, so I got distracted this week by, you know, making sure that they came into Markup RXP, that the grids were fine. It does take a little bit of work to get stuff set up in Markup RXP, particularly when you're bringing in paper patterns that you've scanned in, right? It's different if you're bringing in a PDF, but when you're bringing in a scanned paper copy, you do have to set it up. It doesn't come in, you know, instinctively. So I had to do a bit of fudging around that. So I've got them in, well, there's one that it isn't completely into Markup. It's in Markup RXP. I didn't finish all the steps because I looked at it and I went, we'll deal with that when we get there. Let's just I was done with that. You know, but again, it took more time to get that in with the new start, with the pattern that it is. I was like, ooh, I need to make sure I get that done on the really good scanner, which meant, you know, a trip to the library where they've got a better scanner than my home scanner. So off to the library I went, got it scanned in, got it loaded up. I laughed. I said to a friend of mine, because we've been having such lovely weather, lovely weather. I love this weather. So I actually, so I've got these two bins that I'm keeping. One is sort of like the stash that I've got that I need to show on Flosstube. And then I have another bin that says, okay, I've shown it on Flosstube. Now I need to make sure that it gets into my Xstitch app so I can keep track of my inventory, you know, and that was being delayed. I was not working very hard at that. So one of the days this week, I went and I got my Slurpee, went out. So I don't tend to go out in like the big heat because I can burn in 17 minutes. It's been clocked by somebody. Yeah, I'm that person. I love the heat. I love being out in the sunshine and I can burn like nobody's business. My line is the colors I come in are red, white, and speckled. Anyway, so I went out, sat underneath my umbrella with my Slurpee and my box of stuff that I needed to put in Xstitch, and had my iPad out there, and that's what I did. I sat out there, enjoyed the lovely weather, sat on my big sectional with my feet up, and got everything loaded into Xstitch. The other interesting thing, oh, that reminds me, where did that go? It's over there. In Xstitch, the Stony Creek hand-dyed colors is not a floss vendor that is currently available in the Xstitch. Again, it's not a big deal for me because I have two skeins of one color, and quite frankly, they now live in the box with the Stony Creek patterns. So I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it for anything but a Stony Creek chart, so it can live with the Stony Creek patterns. The other thing that I was going to show you, which I forgot to bring over, they're sitting over there in the chair, but it's too far to go get. Those pre-finished pillows. When I was doing the notes for last week, it was interesting because I was like going, you know, I ordered these specifically, and, you know, I can't be guaranteed that they're necessarily going to always carry those particular ones that I had gotten for specific projects. And so while I was doing the notes section for last week's video, I was like going, you know what, I should just take a piece of paper, because all of those things are related to charts that are in a magazine that I have. So I just took a little slip of paper and I wrote the magazine issue. So it says Stony Creek, I'm making stuff up now, like the musical one is Stony Creek Spring 2022. I think that one's actually accurate, right? Because that's where the chart is that has the musical chart that goes on that musical one. So I went back for all of the 5 pre-finished pillows and found the magazine that sparked the reason why it's like, just go get this because this is what you want to stitch on this, and wrote them on a piece of paper and put them in the bag with that pillow covering, so that whenever I want to start them, I can just pick it up, look at the piece of paper and go, that's the magazine I'm aiming for to go find the chart. I thought that was really brilliant, if I do say so myself. Anyway, so yeah, so I spent time this week getting ready for August, planning for August, looking at my 5-year plan. I'm actually getting really excited about, so the plan for 2026, I'm loving how it's coming together. I'm really loving the concept for 2026. I was talking with a stitching friend of mine this week, and I was like going, doesn't this sound like an awesome concept? And she's like going, oh my goodness, that sounds really great. And I'm like, I know. It's currently in the schedule for 2026. I don't know if I'm going to wait till 2026 to do it because I'm really loving the plan. But I like some of the other plans too, so we'll see how it goes. But the concept of how I'm going to stitch for that year, I love it, I love it, I love it. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm not kidding up for it because it's too far out, but, and again, so August Heat is, so a number of videos ago, somebody asked me sort of, you know, do you have a number of like, this is sort of where your cutoff is going to be in terms of your projects? And the answer is I don't have a number, but I have now decided on a space constraint. So like, you know, if you watch like organizing people, particularly for clothes and things, where it's like, you know, make sure you're using as a minimum like the 1 in 1 out rule. Like if you're bringing something into your house, something has to go out. If you're better about it, it's like 1 in 2 out, or 1 in and 3 out. Not necessarily that, just, you know, that does not apply to stitching supplies, in case you're wondering. That's for other things. That does not apply to stitching supplies. So where was I going with this? Organization. I've lost my entire track of thought. Oh yeah. So how many projects is the right number? So what I've decided is a space constraint. So I've got and I've shown these baskets. If you go into sort of the 2021 year-end whip parade and sort of showing what I had kitted up for 2022, that video, those baskets. So I've got 3 baskets of about equal size. One what's currently holding is whips that have been started previously. So that's where like Jerusalem is, Anne Morrison, Tapestry of Life, Canadian Patriotic Sampler, there's other stuff in there, you know, but that's where all of those are sitting in a basket, and the basket's full. I have the basket for the current year, which sort of was full at the beginning of the year. What I am doing is that as I start projects for the current year and am either, you know, moving them into whips or finishing them, depending on what the month is, when it becomes a whip, it gets moved into that other basket. Now, there was room in the other basket at the beginning of the year because all of the projects that I started in 2021, some of them I actually did finish. Remember by Marnik. I had the Halloween, like that got finished, right? So there was room in there. So as I've been starting projects that are whips for 2022, they've been moving into that basket, which is why that basket's a little full. The basket for 2022 is a little thinner because projects have been coming out of there. And then my third basket is sort of where I'm keeping sort of the projects for the next, you know, year and a half. It's about a year and a half. It's not quite 2 years, but again, there's more room in that basket simply because I haven't kitted all of them up. They're just sort of sitting in there as I'm contemplating, and I'm moving things around in my plan and all that kind of stuff, and adjusting the plan and changing the plan and redoing the plan and changing the years and rethinking, you know, all that good stuff. That's my third basket. So that's sort of, I've now decided that's sort of my constraints. I'm going to try to keep the number of projects that I go, like if they can't really be contained in those 3 baskets, which excludes the where I keep the kitted but not committed. That's a different section. It's totally fine. Different place, different section, different space constraints. But those other ones are sort of the ones where I'm planning on working on them and working them, you know, some of them are in that that 3rd box, because it's like, I do want to start it, and it may not necessarily be in the plan just yet, but it's like, I do want to start it, and how do I get it into the plan? So that's what's going in there. So that's why August Heats is going to be hopefully beneficial, is because I want to go through that WIP basket and get some stuff finished. So I've got some specific goals that are related to my current year plan. I'm going to pick on August Cottage again, right? Because I'm trying to do those cottages 1 a month and get it done. So the August Cottage has to get started and get it finished. So that's going to get done. Let's see how fast this one goes. I'm hoping this one goes faster, but anyway, we'll see how fast I can get the cottage done. I love the August chart, by the way. You know, I've got some carry forwards, like, you know, sampler of stitches is going to continue to get worked on as it regularly is, like, so 1 evening a week. It's turning out, sometimes it's not necessarily Sunday, it depends on what's going on. But 1 evening a week is being devoted to my ABC Sal. And, you know, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So I've got some regular stuff that's coming in, but then the rest of the time I am planning on working on existing WIPs. So so if you'd asked me this last week, I would have said, other than the Cottage of the Month, no new starts in August. Well, it's been 7 days, so that plan has changed. I have a new start plan for August. But the new start for August is reward based. So I can't start on the thing until I've completed. So in my head, I've mapped out some very specific goals about what I want to get accomplished. Now, if I don't get all of them accomplished in the month of August, that's fine. Again, this is not life-saving procedures or whatever. Nobody's going to die. Nobody's in danger. Safety first. If I don't get all of the goals accomplished, that's fine. They were all sitting in the basket before. They'll still be fine sitting in a basket. But I do want to get some stuff accomplished because I think it's going to clear out some room in the basket, which is going to be beneficial. It's going to make me feel better. And it's nice to get projects finished and not let them languish in that WIP basket. So I've got to get my August Cottage done first. And that's I think I'm going to focus on August Cottage. Just get in there, get it done. Don't try to juggle too many things. Get it done, get it done, get it done. Because once that's done, that's great. Because then I get a reward. And then I've picked up my next one. I know what my next one is because I think it's really close to a finish, and I think I can get that knocked off in a reasonable amount of time. And I would love to have it finished. I would love to have it finished. The third one is another one. It's like it's really close to a finish, I think. So I've got 2 that I think are really close to a finish, and so those are going to be the next 2 and get them finished. After that, it's interesting because they're not necessarily close to a finish. So when I get to the ones that are not necessarily, so 2, the goal is get them finished. After that, the next projects I've kind of, my goal is going to be get 1,000 stitches into each of them, wherever that gets me to, however long that takes me. Now, when we get there, I can change my mind again. We'll see how it goes. I may do my first one and go, how long is it going to take me to get my 1,000 stitches in? And I may go, maybe that number is going to be 500. Maybe that's going to be something different. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. This is my first time doing this August Heat concept. But again, the focus is for me to work on WIPs that I have not worked on mostly all year, and in some cases more than a year, and get them worked on. So, for example, originally Jerusalem was going to come out in August. I don't think Jerusalem's going to make it in August. I don't think it's going to come out. We'll see. Check back. We'll see how August shapes up. Because remember I said it's going to come out again. It was going to come out in August and get worked on. But my August plans have changed a little bit, so we'll see. And again, it depends on how much stitching time I've got. It depends on how fast I'm stitching. We'll see how things go. So check back later. But that's the concept. August Heat, other than the 2 new starts, one is the August Cottage, the other one is reward based. Everything should be a whip. Whips all month long. Let's see how much progress I can get done. Like I say, I'm trying to hopefully knock off a couple of things and sort of say, yay, they're done. Wouldn't it be lovely? Anyway, that's my August Heat concept. I'm hoping it works really well for me. If not, so just, you know, in my 5-year plan, next year, August Heat is in the plan again. If August Heat doesn't work for me this year, August Heat next year is maybe going to have to be adjusted or do something, but that's the plan. So that is my topic for this week. We are over an hour. We need to hurry up and wrap this up so I can get outside with my Slurpee. Here comes the organ story. So the choir that I went to Europe with and we were touring, I was thinking about this. As I said, I was willing to tell the stories, and I'm going, how did I end up being the person that ended up playing for this particular song? Because the answer was, I was a member of the choir. We had a pianist. I have no idea why on this particular song I was the designated pianist. So there were 3 of us in the choir that were piano players. And it's like, why wasn't David singing? David playing this? But anyway, of the scheduled pianist, the other pianist who's a better pianist than I am, and myself. However, I ended up being the one that was playing for this particular song when we were singing at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. So when we got in there, as a touring choir, so all of the touring choirs that get scheduled into their programs sing at the very front of the church. I'm not gonna insert pictures because that's just gonna take editing time, but I will probably have a look to see if I can't find a picture of the front of where in Notre Dame Cathedral to show you sort of where the choir was standing. The pipe organ, not surprisingly, is at the back of the church. Anyway, so we get in there, we're the visiting choir. Not surprisingly, somebody from the church comes out to talk to the conductor and sort of say, here's your thing, make sure everything's all set up. And, you know, so a lot of what we were doing was all being sung a cappella. And so for this one piece, which I was playing for, they said, okay, so the organist is going to come out to explain to you what to do. Now, I'm standing there going like, what do you mean he's going to come out and explain what to do? Because then, so first of all, I am not an organist. I have played the organ sporadically. My mother is an organist. When we were growing up, my brother really loves organ music. So when we were doing things, like, so my brother and I have done piano and organ duets and all that kind of stuff, but he was always the organist. So I am way down on the line of skills on organist. I am like, wow, if you're in trouble and you need in a pinch organist, that's me. There's like 42 people ahead of me on the line. And I'm the one who comes in and go, please let there be very minimal footwork in this thing, because that's where I'm not so good at. I can pull it off if it's minimal. If there's a lot of footwork, I'm not going to do well. But I can pull it off, which is clearly why I'm doing it here. So when they said somebody had to come out and explain, that's where I got a little bit concerned, going like, if this turns into something that's really complicated and hard to do, and, you know, I don't want to screw things up while we're, you know, performing in Notre Dame Cathedral. Anyway, so a little bit of tension. So the guy comes out to talk to me, and I'm very grateful, very, very grateful. They're smart people there. This is not their first time doing this. They know that they have to send somebody out to explain things. So this is not exactly what he said, but this is the gist. He came out and he said, first of all, you need to understand that when you start to play this particular song, you are in control of everything. your conductor plays no role whatsoever in what is going to happen. Now, I'm sitting there, you know, I've played for lots of choirs. I've played for solos, I've played for choirs. I'm like, so going like, what do you mean the conductor has nothing to do with it? He's like, the conductor is there for show. You are in charge of everything. You are in charge of tempo. You solely are in charge of tempo. Every tempo change, every pause, every time that you're speeding up or slowing down, you and you alone are in charge of what's happening. And I'm like, okay. It's like, but I don't understand. And it's great because he's a smart guy, and he goes, because here's what's going to happen. Here's your next challenge. There's a time lag that occurs in the sound in Notre Dame Cathedral. So when I start to play, there is a time lag between when I'm playing at the back of the church and I can hear it because I'm at the pipe organ. By the time that sound carries to the front of the church where the choir is, and it's not so far that like I can't see them, like I can see them. But by the time the sound carries to there, there's a time lag. And by the time they start to sing along with what they are hearing, and that carries back to me, is a second time lag. So when you are playing, what you are hearing, so by the time the sound is carried out and come back, what you are hearing is about 1.5 bars to 2 bars behind what you are playing. So as someone who has a lot of experience accompanying, that is entirely not natural. Like everything I do as an accompanist is usually following and trying to keep tempo, and particularly with soloists, right? And you know, one of my big keys for what is happening is when they're taking their breaths and going like, and breath, and okay, here we're going. Like that's just part of what I do as when I'm an accompanist. So the fact that what you're hearing is up to 2 bars behind what you are playing is very, very disconcerting. And I laugh because my mother would not have been able to pull it off. So again, I'm incredibly glad that the guy came out to explain to me what was going to happen. Because if he had not come out and explained, I would have started playing. And when they were like 2 bars behind me, I probably would have stopped and went, whoa, what is going on? It is not a natural feeling. So you have to go through this entire piece completely, utterly ignoring everything that you are hearing. Everything you are hearing, you need to block it out. You need to pay no attention. And in my head, what I'm doing is I'm now needing to focus on the music and how we've rehearsed it and what would be going. So in my head, I'm starting to try to sing in my head, not out loud, sing in my head what the piece is so that I can decide all of those things like tempo changes and how long the pause should be and everything else, because I need to ignore everything there. And that's why it was absolutely true that the conductor plays no role whatsoever in conducting that particular piece. Like I'm having a moment, like, because this was a piece that did have pauses. Like in hindsight, I go like, wonder how that really would have worked, because I was determining how long the pause was. And there's no way for me to communicate to him with the time lag, you know, like when he should be coming in. But anyway, we pulled it off. It ended up being something, but I have no idea how it really sounded because I was so focused on playing the organ, ignoring everything that I'm hearing, trying to remember how it's supposed to go, how we've done it in rehearsals. So yeah, it was a little bit more stressful than I was probably originally thought it was going to be, but I am very happy that I have the ability to say I have sung and played the pipe organ in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. That's certainly not a line any of the other organists or pianists in my family can lay claim to. But it was a very different experience. Very, very different. So yeah, so for those of you who have organists or even pianists who accompany people, to ask them if they can do it where what you're hearing is up to 2 bars behind what you're currently playing. So it was very challenging. It was a very interesting experience. All these years later, it is notable. I really did have to pay attention and focus. So it was an interesting experience. So that is my organ story for Notre Dame Cathedral. So if any of you ever end up going there and having an opportunity to play for something, don't be surprised if they explain to you that somebody's going to come out and give you a little bit of a talking to explain what's going to happen. Anyway, it's nothing that there was nothing distinctive about the organ itself. It's the time lag is the big deal. So that's my organ story. That's this week's Flosstube. I hope everybody's having a really great summer. I hope you're enjoying what's going on. As always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine. Anyway, I'm still thinking about you. I'm still going. I can't believe we're still talking about the Ukraine. But anyway, thinking about you. Safety first, safety first. I hope you're all staying safe and being able to find food and like things that, you know, where I am, I'm living in the lap of luxury, I must say, because I am feeling safe. I've got what I need. And not everybody in the world can say that right now. So as always, let's end on a happier note. So safety first, safety first, safety first. I hope everybody is staying safe. Even where I am, there have been a couple of, you know, tornado warnings, not where my specific location, but sort of around my neighboring areas. So safety first. If you get a tornado warning, don't take that thing lightly. Safety first. I hope everybody's staying healthy. And I hope that you're finding some time to do your stitching. I hope you're finding enjoyment in your stitching. And forgot. Stitching at the library. The next stitching at the library, I booked it with the library, is Saturday, August the 20th. Again, 9:30 to 12:30 at the Signal Hill Library. Those details will be in the notes section below. So if you're interested, come and join us. It's a lovely group of ladies that are getting together. Yeah, it's lovely. It's great to see people and stitch together. Now, I hope you're doing some stitching. Find some time to do some stitching. I hope your stitching is bringing you enjoyment, a sense of calm, contentment, a break from whatever's going on in your world. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.